Hey guys, rainy day here in Sevilla. No outdoor filming, but we'll still have fun chat. Hey, today I want to talk about Blackrock. I hear tons of stuff about Blackrock all the time, about how evil they are. And I had somebody text me, an old friend recently, and ask me, they said, I got a job offer from somebody, who's like an executive at BlackRock or some subsidiary of BlackRock. And I don't know, I just wanted to get your take on it. I don't know that much about them. I've heard some things. I'm worried about the whole corruption thing. So, hopefully you guys are getting the message that I'm sending out consistently, which is that, corruption is everywhere. And it's just the system that we have. So, the people at the top are going to be taking advantages. They're going to be taking advantage of everything that they can take advantage of. Always. There's not going to be any exceptions to that. I mean, if they don't, then they will get out competed by somebody else who is willing to take advantage of whatever advantages that can be legally taken advantage of. So it's just foolish to sit around and whine, and it's also foolish to constantly villainize these people as like, oh, these are bad people, as if you could eradicate these people, or if you got rid of them, that somebody else wouldn't just take their place and do the exact same thing. People are gonna do the behavior. They're gonna follow the behavior that gets rewarded time and time again. That's why it's really important to look at the root cause of things. Why do people behave the way that they do? Why do they not seem to care about much of anything other than making profits? And step away from the window here. Why do they care about nothing but making profits? What's up with that? It's completely a systemic thing. So when you have that kind of reward structure and the system operates in a certain way, don't expect it to act differently. Don't expect people to behave differently. They're following the rules of the game, and they will continue to do so. And you can't just consciously, if you're involved in a public company, you can't actually choose a route that's less profitable knowingly. You could be held liable for that. It's illegal to do something to leave profits on the table, to do something that might be considered to be more socially responsible or humane or whatever the case may be. So anyway, don't expect people to behave differently in the system. If you want to change things, change the system. So getting back to BlackRock, what is BlackRock doing that is so bad? What they're doing, the majority of their business is buying properties and then renting those properties out. So that's a terrible thing, to have all the properties being owned by huge corporations and people paying rent to those corporations. That's viewed as a real negative, because the number one source of net worth in the United States in particular is home equity. So we could talk a lot about that, because I think a lot of that the main reason that is because people are not saving a lot of money, because they can't really save a lot of money because the cost of living eats up almost everybody's entire paycheck. When you have a house and you're paying a mortgage, it's kind of forcing you to have a savings account. You're forced to put that money, you make your monthly mortgage payment every month for 30 years, 360 straight months. And you build home equity over the course of that time period. But there's also dramatic amounts of inflation that is, just continues, not talking the last couple of years. I'm just talking about, since we developed a full-on fiat currency back in 1971 or 73 or whenever we dropped the gold standard, and the central bankers were able to start manipulating the money and devaluing it more consistently and more easily. We've seen large amounts of inflation. Because of that, I've talked about this before, like in other places a long time ago, but yeah, the thing about inflation and guaranteeing inflation by slowly debasing the currency is that it's a guaranteed win if you are betting on the prices to go up, right? So it's not that you're just buying a house and betting on the prices to go up. Whether you buy anything, the price of everything is going up almost all the time. And because of that, not only can you bet on the price going up with your own money, but you can do it with leverage, meaning that you can borrow, 5, 10, 20, 30 times as much money as you actually have and make huge profits. And I think that's the main source of a lot of the, quote unquote corruption that we see in the world is that, we're seeing huge amounts of leverage in the stock market and in real estate, and people are making huge profits that are, pretty much guaranteed because of the steady debasement of the currency. The price is always going to go up because the value of the currency is always going down. And so there you go. You place your 10, 20, 30 times bet that the price is going to go up, and you're basically rigging the Vegas odds in your favor, sort of. But the problem is that the prices aren't always going up, and there is no guarantee that things are going to work out long term, right? There are crashes that come here and there, and when they do, and the price of things fall, everybody who's leveraged to the hilt with all the money that they have, betting way more money than they actually have that the price is going to go up. When it falls, all hell breaks loose, and we have like a total system collapse, and that has to be bailed out. So the bailouts are really obviously where the corruption comes in, right? It's being able to make risky bets, and then if it doesn't go well, you get bailed out. That's corruption, for sure, because the regular common people with their one home that they own, if things don't work out, they don't get a bailout. They just get foreclosed on and kicked out and lose all the equity that they had in their home, and that's it. So that's a bad deal. But what a lot of people don't realize about Blackrock is that the majority of the homes that are owned by investors and rented out in the United States are not from big companies and property owners like BlackRock. It's from small mom and pop investors. So, I think everybody would love to own multiple properties, rent them out, and make a profit. That's kind of a goal of almost every citizen, right? Like that's the dream. You get a property and the renters there pay off the house, and then after renting it out for years and years and years, not only has the house been paid for, but the house is now worth more, and you make a ton of money. And that's one of the ways that Americans, that's their primary means of making like serious income. So anyway, BlackRock is not doing anything differently than what just average mom and pop investors are doing all over America and all over the world. They're just doing it on a bigger scale. That scale is not so huge and enormous that it's above and beyond what regular small mom and pop investors are doing. It's actually smaller. And with the way that real estate is right now, they're not gonna ride off into the sunset doing really well. I mean, the real estate is completely and totally fucked in the United States and many other places as well. I mean, it's totally screwed right now because the prices went up massively because of all the kind of like panic stimulus that occurred during the pandemic. Interest rates were lowered, which makes borrowing easier, and money was handed out, and that made the price of real estate go up massively. So I know, like in the county that I was living in, Sarasota County, the average home price went up 1 year between 2021 alone. I don't think it was 2022. I think 2021, the prices went up for an average house of $110,000. So to live in a nice house that you were the owner of, or or at least trying to become the owner of by having a mortgage, You made $110,000 to live in a nice house. So totally false gains. And then a lot of people use that as an ATM card. You can get a home equity loan and go out and spend cash that from the increased value of your home, which fueled a lot of inflation. So all that money circulating around, fueled massive inflation, and it was based on false gains, right? By the Federal Reserve printing a bunch of money and distributing it out through the economy, and literally the president, both Trump and Biden, writing checks to the American people and sending those out. And with interest rates bottomed out to zero, people could borrow money freely. It was easy to get a mortgage. With the value of houses rapidly rising, banks were totally comfortable with loaning money out to people to buy houses. And that's how these real estate bubbles get created. And we've kind of been living off of real estate bubbles in the United States as our primary means of wealth for a couple of decades. Without increases in the value of real estate, where would we be in the United States financially? I mean, 2/3 of Americans own their own home, and the prices keep just getting artificially increased so that people have all this extra money to spend. And it's kind of the stimulus that people have been relying on, first in the early 2000s, and then after the real estate crash of 2008. We've been re-inflating the bubble since then, and then holy cow, it went crazy. It went berserk with everything that was done during the COVID era. So, but it's all false, and it could all come crashing back down. And where the prices are now, nobody can buy a house at where the prices are at these elevated prices when the interest rates are higher, unless you're going to buy cash, which almost no one can. The only people who can buy cash are investors. And they're not, always buying in cash as well. Sometimes they're borrowing money from other sources, and then they come and make a cash purchase. It's not really cash. They're still borrowing the money, but they're not, using a mortgage like a typical citizen would. So we have, a real situation on our hands, and Blackrock is way out over leveraged. I mean, the inevitable fall in prices that's going to come is going to be devastating to BlackRock. I mean, it's going to create in just hundreds of trillions of dollars of billions possibly of this big black hole of debt as the prices accelerate downward. So if you recall, back in the 2008 crisis, real estate prices actually peaked in late 2006, and then they didn't reach bottom until I believe it was sometime during 2012. So it took 6 years from the top of the bubble, from the bubble bursting to reach all the way, peak deflation of that bubble before it could start to be reinflated again. Prices were pretty stable in 2022. They started to rise a little bit, which seems to be mostly just a seasonal thing. The first half of the year, real estate is a lot more active, and prices tend to go up in the first half of the year, then fall in the second half of the year, stay stable. And they seem to be, in free fall right now as the mortgage rates increase. And it's just a real mess. Eventually, we'll probably have such steep deflation, and everything will start to implode on itself. And at that point, they'll drop the interest rates back to zero again, and things will continue to crash. It'll take years for it to work itself out, and then we'll slowly start to reinflate that bubble the best that we can. But this is not a real economy. This is a fake economy. This is fueled by bubbles. It's really unstable. It's a massive roller coaster. BlackRock and the fact that there's just a lot of investors in the market, they can sell. If things are not working well, they're not making money. Everybody all of a sudden wants to sell their properties. So, I mean, millions of houses could go up for sale the moment investors are not making money, which floods the real estate market with inventory, which causes massive acceleration of the downward prices. So, it's fully loaded up and armed for a massive mega crash that's going to be, could be at least as big as the one that we saw in 2008, if not larger. And we'll probably continue to see violent cycles. These cycles are going to get probably more and more violent as they continue to be allowed to play out like this. But what a mess! What a mess! And BlackRock, the real corruption is, will they get bailed out? Because they're not really doing much of anything that is any different than what your regular mom and pop investor would do, and what anybody would do if they had, a few $100,000 sitting around. One of the first things that they would look to is, getting an investment property or two and renting it out, making a profit. That's been just a great way to make extra money and invest your capital over the last several decades. And so anyway, that's how I feel about that. Don't villainize BlackRock. Take a look in the mirror and realize that if you had the money to buy investment properties, you'd probably be doing it too, because it makes sense. It makes sense, rather than just having your money sit around in the bank and lose money. You get positive cash flow and all those things that you only would get with dividend stocks, and you're probably going to make more money in real estate, renting it out and getting those rent payments coming in. You're going to get more cash flow than you would from dividend stocks, and there's many advantages to it. And it's silly to paint BlackRock as this villainous entity, and they're just doing what makes sense in this system. Somebody's going to do it because it makes sense. There's money to be made, so there's going to be somebody to show up and take advantage of that. And it's not just BlackRock. It's, like I said, it's almost everybody who has the means to do it. So anyway, if you get a job offer from BlackRock or somebody affiliated with them, you could accept that job with a clear conscience, I would say. And anyway, we'll see how all this plays out. And anyway, let me know if you have any disagreements below. I know BlackRock is involved in more than just real estate, and they have some other devious dealings, but for the most part, they're just a business like any other, and they've got problems like any other business, and they do things immorally just like any other business because they can. So, like I said, don't hate the player, hate the game. It always comes back to being a problem in the system and a desperate need for that system to be changed in order for anything to actually change in a meaningful way.